All right, morning, grade nines. Welcome to All Is Well Academy. We are doing an activity on cash channels. This is an activity on how to do a cash receipt journal and a cash payment journal. So we'll look at activity one and look at this transaction, and then we'll record each transaction on the journals. Now, activity one, cash journals. Use the following transactions to draw up the cash receipt journal and cash payment journal of SIPO traders for July 2025 on the answer sheet that I will provide below. Now, transaction for SIPO traders for July 2025. Transaction on the 1st of July. The owner, K. Gamva, deposited 100,000 directly into her business as her capital contribution. Now, what you need to know is where do you record that transaction? That is the most important thing that you need to first tell you yourself. Where do you record that transaction? You record that transaction on the CRJ. You record that transaction on the CRJ. So whenever the owner deposits the money directly into the account of the business, we record that transaction on the CRJ. Now, the second question that you must ask yourself, what are the two accounts that are affected by that transaction? Now, account number one that is affected, it is always bank. When we are doing CRJ, bank is always affected. And account number two is capital. Account number two is capital. What is it that we are receiving the money for? Why are we receiving the money in the first place? We are receiving money for capital. That is the account that is affected. Second account affected. Now let's go and record on our CRJ. Now, when we are doing our CRJ, we'll write receipt number one on the document number. On the document number, we'll write receipt number one. There it is. And then on day, we'll write day one. That is the 1st of July. And then we'll write on details the owner's name. We always write the owner's name on details because it is the owner who deposited the money. And then we do not write under analysis of receipt because the owner directly deposited the money into the account of the business. Whenever the owner directly deposits the money into the account of the business, we do not write under analysis of receipt. And therefore, we should write under bank account because under bank column, because that money went inside our business bank account. We received that money. So we should write under bank. And then we said the second account affected was capital. Therefore, we do not have capital column on the CRJ. So therefore, it means we'll write under sundry accounts. Under amount, we'll write 100,000, and then under details, we'll write capital. And then we are done with our first transaction. It was easy. The way we record capital transaction, it is always like this. It does not change. And we always record capital under CRJ, and we always write the owner's name under details, and we always write under bank and sundry accounts. So please keep that in mind. Now let's go into our transaction number two. Transaction number two, we purchased inventory from Senzo wholesalers and paid 5,430 on the 11th of July. Now, where will we record that transaction? That is your first question. The first question that you should ask yourself. So whenever you see the words purchased, paid, bought, we record in the CPJ. Whenever you see the words purchased, bought, paid, we record in the CPJ. So it means we'll go and record in the CPJ. All right. Now, the second question to ask yourself, what are the accounts affected? Which accounts are affected by that transaction? bank is always affected. So the first account affected is bank because we paid that money. We paid for inventory. We paid to Senzo wholesaler. So it means that money went out of our business bank account. So bank is affected. Now the second account affected, ask yourself, what are we paying for? Oh, we are paying for inventory. So the second account affected will be inventory. Now you know your two accounts affected and you know which journal you should write to. So let's go and record. Now, this is how we'll record in the CPJ. You'll have your document number. On the document number, you always write BS. That stands for bank statement. On the CPJ, you always write BS. That stands for bank statement. Because you don't have a slip or you don't have a receipt that you have that can prove that you've bought inventory, but you can see that on your bank statement. When you print a bank statement, it will show you where you spent your money. Is it clear? So we'll write BS on the source document. And on the day, you'll write your 11th of July. And on details, you'll write the owner's name, the business that you bought inventory from. You'll write the business name where you bought inventory from. You bought inventory from Senzo Wholesalers. So you have to write Senzo Wholesalers. And then because that money actually went out of our business bank account, so we said bank is the first account affected. And then what are we paying or what are we buying? We are buying inventory. So we should write under inventory column. And then we're done with that transaction. Let's go and see how we record the third transaction. The third transaction is saying on the 15th of July, we paid wages of 70,000. So now that transaction does not state that we paid inventory to whom. So it means that we'll write under details, we'll write, instead of writing the name of the employee, we'll write laborers or workers' wages. All right. Now, where are we recording that transaction? That is your first question. Now, because of the keyword paid, so therefore, it means we record in the CPJ. Now, I said the first account that will be affected, it is going to be bank. Bank is always affected when there is that keyword paid. And then the second account affected, what are you paying for? You are paying for wages. So therefore, wages is the second account that is affected. So now let's go and record that transaction on the CPJ. Now, when we're going to record the transaction on the CPJ, we'll write BS on the source document because we don't have a receipt for that. We can see that on our bank statement that we paid wages to one of our workers. So we should write BS on the source document. Remember, always write BS on the source document when you're doing a CPJ unless you are given a receipt number. And then on day, you write day 15. All right. And then on details, I said on details because we are not given the name of the employee. So we'll write labor or workers' pay or workers' wages. And then we write under bank because bank is always affected. We write under bank column 70,000. And I said what are we paying for is the second account affected. So therefore, the second account affected is wages. So we have to write under wages column. Now let's go and do another transaction. Fourth transaction, it is saying that on the 19th of July, we made cash sales of inventory that amounted to 40,000 and the cost price of these goods amounted to 19,500. Now when you're doing this transaction of cash sales, you must always remember that we record that transaction on the CRJ. Whenever you are selling goods and you are receiving money in return. Therefore, it means we record that transaction on the CRJ. So we'll record that transaction on the CRJ. Now, the two accounts that are affected. Now, remember, when you are selling goods for cash, you are selling inventory for cash, I said to you, because we are doing transactions of a trading undertaking business, so therefore, for every sale that we make, there is a cost price for those goods. So for every selling price that we make, there is a cost price for these goods. So for every sales that we make, there are cost of sales that we have to record. So the two accounts now that will be affected, it won't be two, it will be more than two, because we also have to record under cost of sales. Now, the two accounts affected, number one, it will be bank. Bank will be affected because we'll be receiving money in return. And then what are we receiving money for? Therefore, we're receiving money for sales. So the second account affected will be sales. And then I said, because you are doing this account, these transactions for trading sales, for trading undertaking business, there is always a cost price for every sale that we are making. So the third account that will be affected now will be cost of sales. Cost of sales. Now, these are the accounts that will be affected by this transaction, and we are writing on the CRJ. Now let's go and record that on the CRJ. Now, on the CRJ, when we're recording this, we will write on the source document number CRR. What does CRR stands for? It stands for Cash Register Roll. I said that whenever you are doing cash sales, there is a slip that is next to you. A slip that is next to you on the cash register roll. That roll that is next to the till. The roll that prints slips. So it means you can have slips that you can analyze for each and every sale that you are making. So that is why on the source document you write CRR. The proof, the receipts for those sales are on the cash register roll. So you have to write CRR. And on the day you write the day of the sale, that is the 19th. And then on details you have to write cash sales. You have to write cash sales. And then now we have to write under analysis of receipt. Now we have to write under analysis of receipt because we do have slips that we can analyze. We do have slips that are on the cash register roll that we can print and analyze for each and every sale. And then now we do write the selling price, because on those slips, what's written there is the selling price. We sold those goods for a selling price. So we have to write 40,000, that is the selling price. And under bank column, we also have to write the selling price, that is 40,000, because this is the money that will actually go in our bank account. The money that the customer will pay for those sales. The customer will pay us 40,000 for those sales. This is the money that we'll receive from a customer. And then under sales, when you are registering sales, also you have to write the selling price, that is 40,000. And then on cost of sales, this is where you write now the cost price. So that is 19,500. We have three accounts affected when you are doing cash sales for a trading undertaking business. We have bank, sales, and cost of sales. Please keep that in mind. And we always write under analysis of receipt because we do have slips that we can print on the cash register roll. Now let's go into another transaction on the 20th of July. They are saying that on the 20th of July, stationery was purchased from Xerox Stationers for cash and it amounted to 30,000. So now the first question to ask yourself, where are we recording that transaction? We are recording that transaction on the CPJ. We are recording that transaction on the CPJ. CPJ. And then the first account affected will always be bank. The first account affected will always be bank. Bank. And the second account affected, what are we purchasing? Oh, we are purchasing stationery. So the second account affected is stationery. So now you know the two accounts affected and you know which channel that you'll record in. So let's go and record in the CPJ. There it is. Last transaction, you have your source document number, that is bank statement. And it happened on the 20th. Today is 20th. And then on the details, where did you buy stationery from? You write Xerox stationaries. And then the money that went out of your bank account when you were purchasing that stationery, it was 30,000 rands. So you have to write 30,000 rands under bank column. Now, you see we don't have a special column for stationery. So it means we'll write under sundry accounts. There it is, stationery for 30,000. All right, we are done with that transaction. Now let's go and see another transaction on the 25th of July. The cost price of goods sold for cash amounted to 9,000. The selling price of the goods amounted to 15,700. All right, these are cash sales. So I said to you in the above transaction that we record cash sales always in the CRJ. So it means we'll record in the CRJ. And I said the accounts affected, it is bank and sales and cost of sales. And we write also under analysis of receipt. Now let's go and record that transaction in the CRJ. This is how we'll record that transaction on the CRJ. You'll have your CRR as a source document number. Always when you're doing cash sales, you have your CRR as a source document number. CRR stands for cash register roll. And you have your day, that is the 25th of July, and you have your cash sales under details, and you write 17,500. That is the selling price. You write the selling price under analysis of receipt, and then you also write the selling price under bank, and you also write the selling price under sales. You only write the cost price under cost of sales, that is 9,000. And then you are done with that transaction. So please always remember that you always write the selling price. You always write the selling price under analysis of receipt, and the selling price under bank, and the selling price under sales, and the cost price under cost of sales. So always try to figure out which amount is the selling price and which amount is the cost price when you are reading or analyzing the transaction. Now let's go and see how we can record another transaction on the 25th of July. Now, on the 25th of July, the tenant paid the rent to the business SIPO traders for 3,400. It means we received the money. That tenant paid. It is saying that we received the money. The rent income came to SIPO traders. Remember, we are doing the channels for SIPO traders. So that is an income to SIPO traders. And we are recording the rent income into the CRJ. So we have to go and record in the CRJ. And then, now I said, two accounts affected. The first account is bank. The first account will be bank. And now, what are we receiving money for? We are receiving money for rent. So it will be rent income. The second account will be rent income. Now you know the two accounts affected, and you know where to record your channel. Or record your transaction on the channels, or record on the CRJ. So let's go and record on the CRJ. Now there it is, receipt number 2 on the 25th of July. we have the tenant. Because we are not given the name of the tenant who paid for rent, so we'll just write the tenant. But if you were given the name of the tenant, you'll write his name. Now, we do write under analysis of receipt 3,400 because we assume that the tenant gave us that money cash. But if the tenant did go to the bank and deposit the money directly into the business bank account, we will not write under analysis of receipt because it means that we don't have a receipt. But now, because the client or the tenant came to us cash, we assume, because it is not stated, we assume that he came to us cash and bought the money cash. So we do have a receipt that we can print for him that, oh, you gave us money for rent. Now, if you went directly into the business bank account and deposited the money, we will not write under analysis of receipt. Now, let's go and see that how much do we write on the analysis of receipt. We rewrite the money that was paid to us by the tenant, that is 3.5, and under bank column we write also 3.5, and then we also write under sundry accounts for rent income. Under sundry accounts, that is the second account affected, you have to write rent income and write 3.5 on the amount. That is how you record. Now, one thing that we noted on the above slide is that the money for bank on the bank column we recorded on the bank column on the 25th, and also we recorded on the same day on the 25th also under bank column. Now what happens is that when the business goes to deposit money into the business bank account after its sales or after the business day, it only goes to the bank to deposit money once. The business does not go to the bank to deposit money 2 times a day or 3 times a day or 5 times a day. It only go and deposit money to the business bank account once after every transaction for that day. So now this means that under bank column, what we do is that when we have transactions for the same day, we have to combine all the amounts under bank column, and then we assume that those amounts will go to the bank only once when the business goes to deposit money into the business bank account. So we add all of those amounts under bank column for the same day, for only that day, and then we write the total on the last transaction for that day, as we did here. There was 17,500 for this transaction and 3,400 for this transaction. So we combined those two amounts and the total was 20,900. That is the money that will go to the bank account for this day. So the bank will only go after every transactions to deposit this amount into the bank account. All right, that is how we do the transactions for the same day that happened in the same day. Now let's go and record the last transaction. Now the last transaction is saying on the 30th, trading stock purchase for cash from no pinky traders amounted to 21,000. So where we're recording that transaction, I said whenever you see the keywords paid, purchased, and bought, we record in the CPJ. So therefore it means we record in the CPJ. Now I said bank is always affected. When you see paid, bought, it means bank is always affected. Now the second account affected. What are we purchasing, or what are we buying, or what are we paying? We are paying for trading stock. We purchased trading stock. In other words, we purchased inventory. Trading stock and inventory is one and the same thing. So it means we know our two accounts affected, that is bank and inventory. So let's go. Now, how are we going to record that on the cash payment channel? I said that under source document number, you always write BS, that is bank statement, because you're not given a receipt. So you see your purchases and the accounts that you paid on your bank statement. And then you write on the day 30th, and then you write the company's name where you bought inventory from or trading stock from. You bought trading stock from Nopingi Traders. And then I said bank is always affected, so therefore we should write under bank column 21,000. And then you write under inventory column 21,000, because inventory and trading stock is the same thing. And then you are done with that transaction. Guys, we are done with all the transactions of the trading undertaking business, the CRJ and the CPJ. So if you need any questions, please comment and share, and also like and subscribe. And if you need any help, questions, please just say so under comments. I will be there to answer your questions. Now, I will do on the next video, I will try to do a more complex activity that has more complex transactions that we will need to analyze. And then also I will try to also do or remind you about how to calculate cost price, selling price, and profit. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe, please.